Typical Monday these days is usually pretty quiet. I'm quite enjoying working part-time, so I'll have a bit of wake up early to feed Charlie, usually up at 6 a.m, give her a cup of biscuits, and then I'll go back to sleep. Everyone else will get up and go to work. Well, probably 8:30 I'll start doing a few emails, and then sort of get into a bit of a routine, do a couple of hours worth of work, walk Charlie a couple of times, and then have a bit of food, and then usually have to head into the club pretty much after that. I've got a few characters in my house, so I've got Pepper Randall, the famous mullet, and I've got Biso as well. It's certainly a house full of personality, we'll put it that way. There's usually a nightly movie choice, and I last about 15 minutes before I have to leave because it's usually horrendous. Charlie is my child. She's just over 2. Big influence in my life. She luckily got to make the trip up. Had a good flight, and she's really settled in here with 4 girls in the house, and there's always someone home. So she's a pretty lucky gal at the moment. Yeah, so I'm actually pretty fortunate. My employer back in Melbourne has given me a leave of absence, and so I'm working part-time remotely doing mostly management's tasks. I do 21 hours with them, and then obviously my hours at the club, and pretty much makes up full-time after that. Grew up in Western Australia, a bit like everyone in Perth, sort of got to about 18 and was ready to try something different. So I picked up and I studied in Sydney, and I studied physiotherapy over here. And then once I finished my degree, I headed down to Melbourne and have been living there for the past 4.5, 5 years now. Just been working, playing footy, and playing hockey as well. So I came from a hockey background, and I've always tried to keep both of them up at the same time, but it's sort of becoming more and more challenging now. And when I got the call from Giants, I actually got a text from Brianna, who used to coach me at hockey back at MCC, and she sort of said, would you be interested in coming up and having a chat? So yeah, it's a very small world. I always grew up playing hockey, always really enjoyed it, and then I just remember watching the first season of AFLW and wanting to give it a crack to see how I would go. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and I think in his words was something along the lines of, well, you're probably never going to play for the Hockey Roos, so why not give it a go? As harsh as that may seem, it was probably pretty fair advice, and then I gave it a crack that year. My mum flew up for the game, which was really nice of her, and was there for my jumper presentation. The jumper that I got given 14. My dad passed away in May last year from a GBM brain tumour. And so when I had the choice of a number, I spoke to Brianna, and she happened to organise me 14, which is Dad's birthday, so it's a really special number to me, and it's something that I'm hoping to make something of. But yeah, no, I think it meant a lot to Mum, and obviously to myself. There's those moments though when you have that game that afterwards you feel a little bit emotional about the fact that he's obviously not there anymore. It's something that I'm hoping gets a little bit easier over time, but I'm hoping that at least I can give him a little bit of a legacy. He was 56, which is really young, and it's just, it's not genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. You sort of just have to learn to process and deal with it, and it's obviously, it's been a tough year, but it's also been a good year as well at the same time. Just have to try and, life goes on, I guess, and you've got to try and live in his memory and just remember the positive things that you can take from it, rather than necessarily what's no longer there. It certainly wasn't pretty footy, that's for sure, but at the end of the day, win's a win, and you have to take it. And anyone trying to play in that sort of rain, I think I'd understand that it's almost impossible to get a nice hands-out mark in front, that's for sure. It's a huge transition, so unfortunately I was not previously working 9 to 5. I think I was probably doing about 10-hour days. So it's been a bit of an adjustment to sort of reel it back in again, but I'm loving it. I don't know how I'm going to go back, to be honest. That's probably going to be the bigger question. But yeah, unfortunately, AFLW wage isn't going to sustain me forever, so I'm going to have to transition back to full-time work after the season's over. I think the AFL's taken a really good stance this year in the fact that if you if you don't like it, then don't watch it. No one's making you watch it. And I think that if you look at where the game has come, even in the 4 years since its inception of AFLW, the standard is improving, and like you've got to, if you're wanting to have the same standard as the men, then you've got to allow full-time athletes. So at the end of the day, you've got people who are trying to juggle so much. Like you're always going to, the only way that you improve your standard is by investing time and money in it. And until that happens, you're always going to be limited by what you can achieve. But I think the fact that the game has already progressed so far, and you look at some of the young guns like Parker and Prasparkas floating around in the competition, you know where it's going to head to. People just need to be patient and give it time. So I'm actually luckily on my way into the club, so I've got a massage first up, and then I've got a line meeting with the backline group and a meeting with the backline coach myself, and then a bit of a flush run, some weights, and then we'll have our main meeting for the week following that. So it's a bit of a lighter session, more recovery based, which is nice, and then we'll head back onto the track a little bit later in the week to get in our main sessions.